Karim Konate, arguably the most exciting talent to come out of the Ivory Coast in recent years, from getting compared to the likes of Didier Drogba to being the most expensive player ever sold out of Africa. This is the entire story of Karim Konate. Our journey begins in the small village of Ouragio in the Ivory Coast, which is arguably one of the poorest regions in the whole country. This is where a young Konate is seen playing football in the local streets. Sometimes, not even being able to afford a football, he had to settle with playing with trash bags tied together instead. But luckily for him, his life would change forever. As a scout from ASEC Mimosa stumbles upon him, he was asked if he wanted to come try for the infamous Mimosa Academy, also known as the La Masia of African football, where players like Yaya Toure, Salomon Kolu, and even Gervinho all passed through. But the only problem for Konate was the academy was extremely far from his hometown. Speaking with Goal, he said, "That was the most difficult aspect in the beginning. Traveling that long distance to the academy and back with your own money, and then you're not even sure whether you'll finally be admitted into the academy or not." After impressing in tryouts, he was asked if he wanted to join the prestigious academy. For you to realize how difficult it is to get into Mimosa's academy, just look at this stat. In the Ivory Coast, you have a 0.23% chance of becoming a doctor. Compare that to getting admission into Mimosa, 0.04% chance. Every year, the academy only has 47 spots allocated to the best young talent across the whole of the Ivory Coast. But how was Konate able to become so good so quickly? Well, it's thanks to Mimosa's strict training regimen. Starting off their days at 8 a.m. where the players would go on their first 2-hour training session. After that, they would have lunch for an hour before hitting a 1-hour recovery at the pool. At 12, they would go on their educational studies for 3 hours, before going back onto the pitch for their afternoon session, and then hitting the gym right after, before going to sleep at 8 o'clock. Ahead of the 2021 campaign, Konate impressed enough to be invited to join the first team training sessions, and was later even registered as a player for the senior side. And just a couple weeks later, he became a mainstay in Julien Chavar's side, finishing as the club's top scorer with 7 goals, as he helped fire the Yellow and Black to their 27th domestic title, and surprisingly, their first in 3 years. This helped Mimosa qualify for the 21-22 CAF Championship, Africa's version of the Champions League. But it didn't stop there, as Konate wasted no time introducing himself to a wider range of audience. He netted his first continental goal against the Senegalese outfit Tenguith in the first qualifying round, before a double against CR Belezoud looked to earn Mimosa a place in the group stages. And because of Konate's amazing form, he was unsurprisingly called up to the national team in September, and even made his Côte d'Ivoire debut against Mozambique in the World Cup qualifier. He apparently made a strong impression, because just a couple weeks later, he was included in the 2021 Ivory Coast AFCON squad, the third youngest player at the tournament. And even though he didn't make an appearance, to even make the squad is a huge achievement. Leading us to the Confederations Cup, where once again he wreaked havoc. He scored 7 goals in his 8 Confederation Cup matches, and that was good enough for him to have the third most goals in the entire tournament. And despite Mimosa's early exit, his goal scoring record continued at home, where he slotted in 20 goals in 29 league games. And so, these goals scored, along with his youth and promise, earned him a record-breaking £3.5 million transfer to Austrian giants RB Salzburg, one of the most well-run football clubs in the world, known for the recruitment of players such as Haaland, Mane, Upamecano, Naby Keita, Adeyemi, Szoboszlai. You get it. This was arguably the best place for young stars to develop. But in the case of Konate, he wouldn't play for the Austrian giants straight away, instead becoming a co-operation player with Salzburg's farm team, FC Leifberg, in the Austrian Second League. Speaking on his decision to join the Austrian Giants, he said, "I chose Salzburg because they're an ambitious club like me, with the same vision. They're such a competitive team that plays in European Cups, and I also want to compete in them, so I didn't hesitate." Konate ended his first season in the Austrian Second Division with 15 goals and 3 assists in 18 games. Even though it's only the Austrian Second Division, it's not bad for a debut season in Europe if you ask me. But stylistically, how does he play? Konate usually plays as a center forward, frequently roaming in the left wing spaces. Despite his tendency to use his right foot, he's also versatile enough to switch to the right if needed. So far in his short career, he's played in 2 different attacking systems. First one being in the 4-4-2 of Mimosas and his current 4-3-1-2 at RB Salzburg. The majority of his goals in the Ivory Coast came from incisive runs that led to shots. Konate was a special player for Mimosa. He was someone who would create offense just from shooting. Although he was the best player on the team, there's still some aspects of his game that he can improve, starting off with his finishing. Despite being extremely good with headers, on the ground, it's a different story. Despite scoring a lot of goals for Mimosa, Konate should have had more. Due to occasional poor finishing, it saw him miss out on a lot of easy goals. But luckily, finishing is one thing that with practice you can improve on. Unlike speed, which Konate has an abundance of. He loves to make runs in behind the defense using his rapid pace to score with ease. At Salzburg, it's been more of the same, making runs, knocking in headers, and scoring goals as a traditional striker. But the Austrian Giants actually brought out some of his hidden talents, like his playmaking. But you can't fit Konate into a single archetype, much less a whole style of play. It's mostly down to his fluidity and dynamism, even though we don't have a lot of stats to judge him based off of. The early player comparison that I would make to him is he's kind of like a Christopher Nkunku, but less creative. What he does have is elite goal scoring ability. His intelligence and positioning makes him a perfect deep lying forward, and his dribbling and finishing can put him into any of these roles, from winger to maybe even second striker or even attacking midfielder. Bringing us to now, where Konate has started the season on fire, first scoring a brace against Inter Milan in preseason.
E a jogada lá no ataque. Olha o Ian Sommer, que é isso? Sai jogando errado, tá sem goleiro, Karim Konate bateu! Gol! Sai o cruzamento lá dentro da grande área, disputa pelo alto e um toque de cabeça pro gol! Gol! Konate de novo!
Then in the league, scoring 5 goals and having 2 assists in his first 4 games for Salzburg. With the striker market looking extremely dry at the moment, it's only going to be a matter of time before Konate, who's still only valued at 6 million euros, is going to get his big move. Thanks for watching, take care, and peace.